Aotearoa, welcome whānau to the War on News, your weekly sacred cow slaughtering assault on current affairs, beam live from the palatial Stratus News bunker buried deep beneath the heart of the Greyland Republic. If this show is a fault line, it would be a nuclear reactor-free one. Love going out to the Japanese whānau this week. And tonight's political media crimes against reason kill zone, public welfare out, corporate welfare in. Solo mums get everything while billionaires do without. Beneficiaries can't have their human rights breached because they're not human. Law Society criticises Simon Power's abattoir of cheap pet food grade judicial practice, plus this week's Sex and the Supercity Wanko of the Week and the Barack Obama People's Hair of the Week Award. Leading the war on news this week, brothers and sisters, the ACT Party was desperately trying to justify their existence this week with their conference at the luxurious Barry Court Accommodation and Conference Centre at Gladstone Road in the cheap part of Parnell. Judith Collins turned out to give children nightmares and promised more public floggings for shoplifters and solo mothers, while Grand Cyclops Don Brash was on hand to explain that every Māori prayer spoken in public puts us further behind Australia, proving that only half the active membership of ACT are also card-carrying, cross-burning members of the Ku Klux Klan. One cheeky bigot cried out that ACT should re-implement shoot the natives policy. Racist prick. ACT decided that being politically irrelevant wasn't all they wanted to achieve this year and opted for mining industry whore as well, with Rodney proudly proclaiming ACT's desire to mine conservation land with the claim that he loved open cast mines and breathlessly oohed and ahed at their magnificent arsenic-laced scars on the landscape as possible tourism attractions. Let's see. Holiday in Hawaii, trip to the United States, brother-in-law's wedding, flights to the UK, amusement park theme rides, tour through Canada. You know what? I can't see Rodney visiting one single open pit mine when he took his $21,974.40 taxpayer-funded trip around the world with his girlfriend in 2009. Perhaps the open cast mine nature park fun run wasn't open that week he was staying at the Ritz. Whānau, claiming that open pit mines are a replacement tourism venture is like suggesting we battery cage Kiwis for a special KFC drumstick food offer for visiting cruise ships. Let me save Alan Gibbs any more of his money in trying to figure out why ACT are about to implode Charlie Sheen styles. The reason Rodney is out in his arse in Epsom is because most professional women in that well-to-do electorate have all had a sexist bully boss like Rodney, and they saw what he did to Heather Roy and they automatically transferred their righteous vitriol onto him, and as such would prefer to be seen shopping at Farmers by their Remuera Tennis Club girlfriends than vote for the laughing baboon again. ACT go bye-bye now! Brothers and sisters, the National Party have gotten rid of the old Governor-General for costing Paul Henry his job and replaced him with none other than Lieutenant General Marta Perry. That's right, the former head of the Armed Forces and current spy master of the Government Security Communications Bureau. Whānau, I hate to be that guy, but we are replacing our civilian Governor-General with the former head of the military and current head of the super secretive spying agency, the GSCB. That's kind of like giving Darth Vader your power of attorney. Shouldn't the Governor-General be a civilian with a proven track record in high public service rather than the head of the army who also just happens to run the nation's surveillance apparatus? Isn't it funny, brothers and sisters, in places like Libya, Egypt, Algeria, Bahrain and Yemen, the people are dying on the streets to get rid of military strongmen who head the secret police. Yet here in New Zealand, we willingly hand it over. To Mickey. Brothers and sisters, Last week we were celebrating International Women's Day, and this week we got the numbers to prove why it's so shitty being a woman. The Commonwealth released their Equality Index showing that in New Zealand, women get 72% of what men get paid, only 34% of our MPs are women, and a bare 8.6% of NZX 100 companies have women on their boards. And here's the kicker. New Zealand was ranked #1 in the entire Commonwealth. That statistical list against equality is as good as it gets, meaning the wealth is only common if you've got a penis. Let's give it up once again for all the sisters and aunties and mothers and grandmothers and wives and girlfriends and cousins, all the wahine, who because of cultural and economic hegemony have to put up with being second-class citizens in their own country. To the headlines, whānau. Public welfare out, corporate welfare in. Solo mums get everything while billionaires do without. Whānau, the Telecommunications Minister, Stephen Joyce, decided to hand over a $43 million deferred payment loan to a foreign-owned media company he once headed, while in the same week the government decided to cut public broadcasting. I don't wish to sound cynical, but has it struck anyone else that when it comes to public welfare, this government can't get the knife out fast enough to trim away waste, yet when it comes to corporate welfare, they respond faster than Charlie Sheen's crack dealer? One more Charlie Sheen joke and I get a coffee percolator. Compare the $120 million national borrow each week for tax cuts against the tens of thousands of beneficiaries Paula wants to force back to work. Compare the $35 million handed out to private education while gutting 80% of all public adult education classes. Compare the $15 million in corporate welfare to Warner Brothers for a manufactured crisis at The Hobbit to Radio New Zealand's frozen 5-year budget. Compare the $35 million spent on military boot camps that don't actually work, compared to cutbacks in early childhood public education. Compare the $1.7 billion handed over to Mr. Magoo from South Canterbury Finance to the 10% cuts in public services. Whānau, John Key isn't creating trickle-down policy. He's defying economic gravity by demanding trickle-up policy. Don't think of National as redistributing the wealth of society. Think of them as reaccumulating it for all those poor millionaires who are doing it hard this year. Did you know that some families in northern Wellington suburbs are having to holiday in Bali this year because of the recession? Brothers and sisters, don't ask what the corporatocracy can do for you. Ask what you can do for the corporatocracy. Moving on with the headlines, whānau. Beneficiaries can't have their human rights breached because they're not human. The Children's Commissioner has pointed out that the ideologically stacked welfare raiser gang's work sets you free reforms are apparently discriminatory against beneficiaries. But duh, of course they're discriminatory. How else are we supposed to punish solo mothers? Picking on just the gypsies won't do. We have to have that full spectrum discrimination. And what better way to teach solo mothers about the sin of their ruttings than government-sponsored baby farms? That's right, brothers and sisters. Come July, the government will allow children's centres to have up to 75 under 2s in their care to force solo mums back to work. These Paula Bennett baby farms will come complete with yeah, nah, Westy answers to all your requests, along with the jaw-dropping hypocrisy of denying solo mums an education allowance that Paula herself benefited from. The Paula Bennett baby farm, all stick and no carrot, makes little Johnny a prison statistic. Moving on with the headlines, whānau. Those bloody lawyers are at it again, brothers and sisters. This time, criticising the largest dismantling of judicial protections which are being sold to the sleepy hobbits of New Zealand as efficient streamlining. How Simon Power has managed to piss on the Magna Carta and abolish jury trials, abolish legal aid independence, create absentee trials and video-linked desensitisation without one murmur from the rest of you is testament to the old saying, there's nothing as stupid as a New Zealander. Whānau, these changes have nothing to do with the quality of justice and everything to do with cost cutting so that the court system becomes based on mercy by the pound, justice without the annoying cost. For crimes punishable by up to 3 years jail time, there will be no jury, just a judge. Perhaps one of those judges who were described in a 2009 report as being idiosyncratic, arrogant, inflexible, and not up to the job intellectually. We are building a corporate prison nation minus the legal safeguards while expanding unchecked police powers. Shh. Here's some beer and rugby. Stay stupid, New Zealand. Stay stupid. Whānau, are you feeling sexy? It's Sex in the Super City time. Brothers and sisters, Comrade Len is working on Auckland's spatial plan, which is the plan Auckland uses to be spatial. Comrade Len speaks of a vision that integrates social and economic prosperity with the recreational cultural well-being of Aucklanders at its heart, whereas the government's counter vision is trucks, motorways and more trucks. The government want to dump planning regulations to control urban sprawl and allow property developers to have a free hand while endlessly building motorways which benefit the trucking industry, who so thoughtfully lobbied for National in the 2008 election by shutting down cities with their illegal truck convoys. Brothers and sisters, here's why Aucklanders should be angry with what the government are proposing. In the 15 years from June 1990, Aucklanders contributed $7.02 billion into central government coffers from fuel tax, road user charges and motorway vehicle fees, but got back a mere $3.22 billion, less than half in transport-related expenditure. Wellington takes, Auckland loses. It's time Comrade Len stood up to the beehive and demanded the infrastructure investment that Wellington has spent a decade and a half in stymieing. And such investment does not need to come at the cost of rebuilding Christchurch. With Christchurch out of action, Auckland needs to shoulder the burden of economic growth on our own, and such infrastructure building is the exact medium-term investment we need. Comrade Len, you're elected to lead Auckland. Whānau, let's hand out this week's Wanko of the Week award. Brothers and sisters, this week's Wanko of the Week has to go this week to the police claims that there is no code of silence cover-ups in the New Zealand Police Force. Last Friday, the High Court at Auckland granted an application for prosecution to be stayed against Clinton Lyle Hill, a constable from South Auckland. Clint, our blessed boy in blue, had spent 7 years defending the beating in the back of a police car of George Tiffany Harris. George, of course, managed to escape the illegal beating in the back of a police car that 2 other police officers had turned a blind eye to, and while fleeing the alleged beating in the back of the police car, he ran into the path of a street sweeper and was killed. Clint had been let off even though the 2 other cops who turned a blind eye to the illegal beating in the back of the police car confessed their role in conspiring to defeat the course of justice by covering up the beating. This has led the New Zealand Police to claim there is no code of silence for police cover-ups. I'm sorry, I seriously, I can't do that line straight. I can't. 2 police officers confessed to covering up the illegal beating of a man that leads to his death, but there are no illegal police cover-ups. It's like the case of autistic man Cornelius Ari Smith Vorkamp, who wasn't given the bash by Christchurch cops for supposedly looting. He tripped and bashed his face on the ground 3 times. He's very clumsy. Whānau, there are no issues with police cover-ups in New Zealand, just like there are no problems with Charlie Sheen opening a kindergarten daycare centre. Thank you, Whānau. Thank you for... That's the 10th Charlie Sheen joke the War on News has come up with. I'd like to thank Charlie Sheen for endless material and a gender double standard that thinks a spousal beating drug abuser who plays a sex addict at 7:30 PM television should deserve such unwarranted attention. Let's end the show by handing out this week's Barack Obama People's Hero of the Week award. Brothers and sisters, this week's Barack Obama People's Hero of the Week award has to go to none other than Barack Obama, for reneging on closing Guantanamo Bay. He's had to keep it open because only in Guantanamo can his kangaroo military courts do their work without that annoying due process thing getting in the way. Take international man of mystery Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who gave his confession after being tortured 183 times. Brothers, sisters, whānau, European New Zealanders, white mofos. It doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum. I think we can all see, can we not? Putting a man on trial for his life based on a confession given after being tortured 183 times is the sort of twisted sick shit that CIA client dictators pull. Folks, if you tortured me 183 times, I'd confess to being the love child of Osama bin Laden. This is how we fight for freedom and democracy, is it? Death penalty kangaroo court trials with confessions taken under torture is acceptable testimony? If anyone else was pulling this crap, they would be rightfully denigrated. America does it under the guise of democracy and freedom, and it's okay. Folks, torturing someone 183 times to get a confession out of them doesn't protect our freedom or democracy. It betrays our freedom and democracy. It's these sorts of double standards that make people fly planes into buildings. It doesn't protect us from them. That's it for tonight, folks. Don't forget, my new show, Citizen A, plays Thursday, 7 p.m. on Triangle and replays on Strata Sky 89 and Freeview 21 at 7:30 p.m. on Sundays. Follow me on my Citizen Bomber Twitter account and Citizen Bomber Facebook site. It has all the shows posted up online and allows you to befriend other like-minded citizens for romantic news moments. Good night, New Zealand. You stay classy out there, Righto.